Hello, everybody. What's going on? I thought I'd make a little video on Franco Columbu, Arnold's right-hand man. Now, a lot of you who've been around and enjoy bodybuilding, enjoy the history of bodybuilding, a little bit older maybe. I remember Franco, learned a lot about Franco from Pumping Iron. The movie definitely one of the top, probably the top bodybuilding movie ever made, in my opinion, and most people's, obviously. In that movie, they kind of gave us a little background on Franco Columbu. Talked about some things, his backstory, where he came from. He arrived in 1969, along about the same time Arnold came to the States, and Joe Weider actually set Arnold and Franco up with a $80 stipend, basically money to help them live from week to week. And they also started a brick company. A lot of you have seen the video on YouTube where Arnold's kind of driving around Venice, and he actually goes to one of the brick walls that these guys built that's still standing. That was pretty cool. Franco was a absolute powerhouse of a man. Now, this guy was only about 5'5", and 185 contest, 185 pounds he competed at. He was in the under 200 division of the Olympia. I think they had that up until the 81 contest maybe. But Franco was a pretty dominant under 200 bodybuilder at that time. Of course, he could not defeat Arnold per se. I think back then the two champions squared off for the final Olympia. Here's Franco, a little bit older. But Franco was a super strong individual. If you remember Pumping Iron, I mean, they showed him doing some pretty crazy stuff, moving cars, things like that. Franco, at his body weight, in off season, I suppose he was probably a little over 200 pounds. I don't know. These guys didn't blow it up like today's bodybuilders, but Franco had a 525-pound bench press, a 400-pound clean and jerk, 655-pound squat, and a 755-pound deadlift. Now, he was actually considered to be stronger than Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he competed in the World's Strongest Man contest back in the day, and he actually placed fifth. But what was kind of crazy about that, and a lot of you guys have seen that contest on YouTube, and he actually was, there was a refrigerator race, and Franco actually dislocated his knee during that race, and he actually ended up suing and won a $1 million settlement for that. So that kind of certainly helped set him up. Now, if you listen to a lot of people talk about Franco that were not like his close friends, Franco could come off as a pretty arrogant individual, a ladies' man, if you will. Franco pretty much was known for, according to some people on the internet, for hitting on people's wives and hitting on everything that moves, and etc., etc. Basically a normal bodybuilder back in the day, or anywhere for that matter, probably. But Franco, he won the 1981 Mr. Olympia, and a lot of people think that 1980 was the most controversial contest in the history of the Olympia. But actually, a lot of people feel the 1981 contest was more controversial because Franco, I believe, beat Tom Platz. He beat Danny Padilla, I believe, and a lot of people feel they both look better than Franco. Franco had a massive case of gyno going on, and it was quite obvious on stage. And Franco's physique, quite honestly, you can tell by this picture right here, was not very aesthetic. His arms didn't match the rest of his physique, the short torso. Guy had a killer back. So there might have been some politics at work in the 1981 Mr. Olympia. But nevertheless, there's always politics at work. So, it is what it is. Franco later in life became a chiropractor, and pretty interesting story. Arnold actually made him like the head of the California Chiropractors Association or something like that. And it was a bit controversial, and there were some issues with that. He's actually been in 21 movies as well. I didn't realize. I know he'd been in a few movies. I think he was in Terminator as a Terminator in the beginning, and he tried to break out on his own. He had a movie called Beretta's Island that didn't do real well. Nevertheless, he did make it in 21 movies. I think 2011 was the last movie that he was in. There is Franco, young and old, right there. That's a pretty cool picture. You can go on YouTube and see him and Arnold working out at Gold's Gym. Pretty much machines, obviously, at this point. But, you know, it is what it is. He was Arnold's best man in his wedding. And, again, Franco was, quite frankly, one of the strongest bodybuilders to ever live, particularly under 200 pounds, competing. This guy was incredibly strong, and you can hear stories about that on YouTube once in a while. But Franco, definitely, these guys kind of age gracefully. A lot of these guys from the golden era managed to make it through bodybuilding with their lives. A lot of these guys today, of course, do not. So props to these guys. Franco, again, a lot of people don't like Franco Columbu from the interviews that I've seen. Maybe age has kind of changed him, but nevertheless, he was definitely, one of Arnold's, if not Arnold's best friend. You can kind of see the little bit of gyno there on the left side there on his that would be his right pectoral there. But Franco's physique was kind of, blocky, certainly not that aesthetic. Nevertheless, he was quite the powerhouse, and definitely a bodybuilding legend.